I'm here to talk about constructivism, explain its applications in the education system, why I chose it, and how I would personally apply these approaches. I would personally define constructivism as the social framework and groundwork that helps foster cooperative learning. So, why did I choose constructivism? Well, students of all ages learn differently. I believe the method and how knowledge is delivered from the teacher to the student and then being able to derive understanding and meaning from that is really important. I think that as a teacher, one of the best things you can do is help your students build their knowledge and do it together cooperatively in the classroom, both socially and independently. And I feel that constructivist approaches help to achieve this. Constructivism fits into a family of cognitive learning approaches. Its focus is that learning and meaning is built by the students. Listed here are some key principles. Students are an active participant in their learning. The mantra is generally learning by doing. Social interaction is also key and necessary for effective learning. Final note. Constructivism encourages students to make sense of what they've learnt for themselves. There are different interpretations and ideas to this. However, constructionists generally believe that the student plays a physical and mental role in the construction of learning and knowledge. There are two main schools of thought to this. Psychological constructivism. Now this focuses on individual students and how learning and knowledge, beliefs and identity are formed. Piaget's theory of cognitive development and the students progressing through the various stages helps form the foundation of this principle. Now, while psychological constructivists generally agree and acknowledge the importance of a social environment in the classroom, they see the role of the individual learner and that environment as central. So now we have discovery learning. Now, discovery learning is the concept that if a child or a student can make sense of and discover the connections between their learning, they can remember and apply what they've learned. And some key points to that are children have increased motivation to partake in knowledge acquisition and solve new problems. Example, this could be when students go outside to learn about nature for a biology class and they're collecting plant samples. However, some opponents of discovery learning feel that it is unhelpful academically and note the lack of teacher input. Now, we're moving on to inquiry and problem-based learning. Now, these are separate but related. Inquiry learning involves students asking questions and finding solutions to problems for themselves. It's often applied to scientific disciplines, while PBL has emerged from medical and educational sectors. Now, both are similar because they place a heavy emphasis on collaboration with peers and students' cognitive learning activity making sense of their learning, but they're also different. Inquiry learning places an emphasis on asking questions that are scientific, which also involve gathering and analysing data to reach a final conclusion. Whereas PBL may use text-based information and data and self-directed learning, a university approach. These could be both used at med school or university, where students would be working in groups during tutes, conferring with each other, and then going away individually and processing what's been learnt. Now there are some issues. A teacher would need to be on top of their game and monitoring everything, and young children and students are probably not suited as they lack the cognitive ability needed for such tasks. Now, social constructivism. Now, these approaches generally underline that social processes are integral to learning and they help shape cognitive development. Social constructivists as supporters are interested in how the peer-to-peer learning process can help extend knowledge and how it's reciprocated by each student. Another key interest is also in the teacher's role of how learning and environment is structured to facilitate the social interaction of everyone. This brings us to collaborative and cooperative learning. Now, cognitive benefits arise from co-construction and negotiation with this theory, such as a group working together, giving feedback to create an understanding that's perhaps greater than what they might have been able to achieve individually. Another example, children could be in a primary school classroom or working on a geography project and then brainstorming ideas on the whiteboard. Students are encouraged to share their own ideas and get involved, and this would help gain a greater understanding of knowledge. There are some issues, and one being that the academic benchmark might not be achieved compared to, say, a direct instructional approach. Peer learning. Now, peer-assisted learning is a form of student-centered learning that encourages social interactivity between students. It also helps give learners chances to scaffold their knowledge while supporting and helping their colleagues do the same. Another example, at primary school, a grade 1 or 2 buddy system program, for a few weeks, for a few hours a week, the classes could mix and the students are paired up together, each taking turns listening or reading out aloud. Now, however, sometimes certain children just don't click and they aren't focused or mature enough, and as a result, they probably need to be repaired by the teacher. So we have some pros and cons. Now, apart from what's listed, other benefits of social constructivism include cultural and social integration. They can be tailored to different subjects and classrooms, creating an air of encouragement and participation. However, there are some drawbacks. Teachers would need to be confidently able to answer any questions that's been asked of them. Students might get frustrated with the lack of help and answers given by the teacher, and supporters of direct instruction and directive teaching methods have criticised these constructivist approaches, citing that they're hands-off and a lazy way of teaching. Now, how would I apply this in the classroom? Well, I feel this would all depend on who and what subject I'm teaching. At primary level, I'd probably tailor my style to a social constructivist approach with elements of direct instruction and directive teaching. I feel this would help make learning fun but keep the students on track. Students could be grouped together on tables in the classroom and brainstorming ideas during subjects. Now, for secondary levels, I think it's important to have a blend of directive teaching and social constructivist aspects to allow for some scope for students to research and find their own answers to meaning and knowledge, especially in IT-based subjects, with some teacher guidance, of course. However, mathematics and science are examples of where maybe a psychological method and approach is probably a little better, as those subjects tend to have more structured lessons. Again, this just would need to be assessed carefully and closely by a teacher for any of these constructivist approaches to be successful. So, in conclusion, I find constructivism really fascinating. I understand the criticisms aimed at constructivist approaches and why detractors know its lack of focus on academic success. But at the end of the day, these are all just theories and frameworks to help assist teaching. And while I do acknowledge that direct instructional and behavioralism and directive teaching methods, if applied correctly, have been proven to work, and yes, there are benefits to those direct approaches. However, there's lots of variables of how academic success is achieved, and not every student nor every subject necessarily adheres to a direct instructional mould of education. I'm also impressed with the constructivist concept and the way it's applied at various levels. I love the scalability of psychological and social approaches and being able to tailor them to your classroom or subject being taught. These cognitivist approaches as a group are more suited to me as a person and a teacher than, say, direct instructional learning, chalk and talk, or behavioralism. And yes, finally, I love I love how social constructivism and psychological constructivism encourages social and cultural integration and promotes the sharing of knowledge. So hopefully this talk has demonstrated why I feel constructivism is the social framework and groundwork that helps foster cooperative learning. Thank you.